Welcome to Books and Ideas Audio, a presentation of the Vancouver Writers Fest. The Vancouver Writers Fest connects people to exceptional books, ideas, and dialogue through year-round programming that ignites a passion for words and the world around us. We carry out our work on the unceded territories of the Musgrave, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Celebrate National Poetry Month with this release of the Poetry Bash from our flagship festival, recorded live on October 20th, 2023. The Poetry Bash is one of our most beloved events each year, featuring a mesmerizing lineup of poets from around the world, who've released some of the year's most memorable collections. Enjoy poems from Victoria Adukwei Bulley, Lorna Crozier, Patrick Friesen, Susan Musgrave, Michael V. Smith, and Matthew James Weigel, with introductions from host Jen Curran. We'd like to thank our partner for this event, KPU Creative Writing, as well as our public sector funders, the Government of Canada, the Canada Council for the Arts, the Government of BC, the BC Arts Council, the City of Vancouver, and CMHC Granville Island.
Welcome to the Poetry Bash. It's wonderful to see such a great crowd tonight. My name is Jen Curran. I am a writer and a teacher who has been living in the Lower Mainland for many years, and I'll be your host this evening. First and most importantly, I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of the territories that we are on, the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musgrave, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And I want to note that while these land acknowledgements are very important, what makes them really take on weight is when they are carried forth with action, with large and small actions on the parts of settlers like myself who are here on these lands as uninvited guests. I hope each of you will join me in making a commitment to engage deeply and from the heart in tangible acts of reparation and reconciliation. This event is called the Poetry Bash, and its very name evokes a party, a celebration. But given recent events in Palestine and Israel, not to mention other ongoing conflicts and aggressions internationally and here on Turtle Island, many of us might feel that it is a time to grieve, not celebrate. I was thinking a more appropriate name for tonight's event might be the Poetry Balm, that poetry might be a salve for our heavy hearts. But of course, poetry does not always comfort. In fact, sometimes poetry's job is to do the opposite, to sting, to startle us out of our complacency, to remind us of our wounds and the wounds of others. And so perhaps tonight, whether we are in the mood for a bash or in need of a balm, we can open our hearts and our minds to the medicine we're about to receive in whatever form it arrives. We have a stellar lineup tonight of 6 talented poets: Victoria Adukwei Bulley, Lorna Crozier, Michael V. Smith, Patrick Friesen, Susan Musgrave, and Matthew James Weigel. I'm really excited to introduce the one and only Michael V. Smith, a writer, performer, and filmmaker. In fact, his first feature film, The Floating Man, is having its Canadian premiere here in Vancouver in just 2 days on Sunday night. Originally from Cornwall, Ontario, Michael now lives in Kelowna, where he teaches creative writing at UBC Okanagan. He has published 7 books, including poetry collections, novels, and a memoir. And his most recent book, which he'll be reading from tonight, is the poetry collection Queers Like Me, a humorous and candid take on family, queerness, and queer family, among other subjects. Sharon Friesen says that the book feels like a friend you could talk to about anything. Please join me in welcoming Michael V. Smith to the stage.
Thanks, Jen. This is a dream come true. In 1988, when I was 17 years old, I was in Montreal with a bunch of friends because you could go drinking there when you were 18, so I had fake ID with long hair, but it was military ID. It wasn't very good ID, but nobody cared. I was in Montreal with friends, and I bought my very first adult book. I bought a poetry book called Angels of Flesh, Angels of Silence by Lorna Crozier, and it changed my life. It's been 35 fucking years I've been waiting to be on the same stage with Lorna Crozier, and I have to say, it's a dream come true. There's a 17-year-old in me who is weeping with joy. I told her I might not get through my introduction. A parallel universe. In some other parallel quantum town, life has given me the opportunity to meet Al Charbonneau at the hardware store so he can say, you know what? Sorry I called you a cocksucker in ethics class, but am I still my own person who answers, hey, no, look, that's all true. I've been a cocksucker this whole time. You are not apologizing for the right piece of that action. When I'm halfway up that hammer aisle, would I hear him say behind me, huh, like he finally gets it? Or is the world no better than a punchline, no matter who, nor when, nor where? I'm the guy who doesn't want you to applaud after every poem, because then I'm going to read a poem you don't apply, and then I'm going to have to rip it out of every book. This is my feel-good poem. This is a recipe for a queer performance. My book's a little unusual. I like making poems where I haven't written the poem. I collected dreams of friends and family, and I just got friends and family to write their dreams, and then I made poems out of them. And this is a game I played, and so all of these are true. It's like a verbatim found poem where I created a game, like Liz Baczynski, who's in the audience. She taught me how to do this. You just make a container, and then people give you the language, and so that's what I did. The poem explains itself, but all of these things are true. It's verbatim. A recipe for a queer performance goes something like this. Ask the audience to write down on a slim piece of paper an embarrassing, sexy time. Then invite them to flip to the reverse and record what they gleaned. Answers will be varied. Sometimes the lessons are simple. If you give a man roadhead and get eyeballed by a family, you learn not to continue blowjobs at a stoplight. A friend catches you masturbating to a Sears flyer. You might, if you're lucky, learn that you are not alone in these feelings. Maybe you call your lover by their dad's name. Don't bang dudes with hot dads. If you walk in on your parents, there is room for shared humor. Maybe some guy gags giving you a blowjob and vomits all over. Learn to ask your sex partner how long it's been since their last meal. Some lessons are harder to fathom. One must live them to understand. If, while fucking in front of a mirror, you collapse and temporarily lose vision from an orgasm, an ambulance is called. That instructs us to be careful with the ego. Or say you're high, tripping out while having relations in a tent. Horses trot nearby on a path, and you think the hooves are people banging on the canvas, so holler, "Back off! Find your own fun!" There are many insights to be had here. Some flubs are complicated. If you return from a college trip and dad finds a penis extension in your bags, now you know he can't handle shit. Something wilder, a vodka-infused birthday cake licked out of your butt demonstrates an ability to try something new. Or classic, you hook up with a guy after the bar closes, both of you madly making out, only to realize mid-sex that you're against a window with 50 people watching from the street. Always be aware of your surroundings. Tried to kiss a girl at the dance, got head-butted in the nose, blood everywhere. But if you bleed on her and she sticks around, she's a keeper. How loud are men? How loud are we allowed to be in each context, measuring our gay situation like a library hush? Did we, with high-pitched voices, not get shushed ad nauseum like Madame Lucenda, who didn't criticize the student who banged my head on the desk, but me for squawking? So distracted by her insult, I didn't think to note until now that other boy who lowered his hand in silence. The Cornwall Royals, my hometown, Cornwall Royals were our junior A hockey team, won the Memorial Cup 2 years in a row. Cornwall Royals. My first job was selling raffle tickets for the Royals fan club draw at halftime. I can still sing that phrase the way our manager taught me. Tickets for the Royals fan club draw, tickets. That gig gave me free entry to all the hockey games, which should have done more to help me fit in at school, except none of the boys watched Junior A. Their families couldn't afford the tickets. And I didn't watch the NHL because who could care about the TV when the likes of Howard, Chuck, Crawford, and Gilmore were on home ice? My parents' seats were behind the Royals bench. My mother was known for yelling through most of the game so loudly our own players would turn and bark at her to shut the fuck up, lady. Oh, boo-hoo, she'd harp back. If you can't take it, play better. My mother, she's a hero. Oh yeah, I'm doing great. I am doing great. I have an amazing time. You're a great audience. This is my last poem. Are you in for a treat? That, Susan Musgrave, Patrick Friesen, are you kidding me? Like, there are amazing people here. And people I've just met, so I'm not allowed to sing their praises. They'll know I'm talking shit. This is a really great night. I'm having a great time. Pretending sleep. On nights my grandparents drove home to their bungalow on Rideau Street, Kemptville, Ontario, with crickets scissoring their legs at every stop sign the Chevy Nova met, wind whistling to a tune my grandmother pulled, fresh from the air, the dark delivered to the curve of her tongue. I would feign sleep for the feeling of my grandfather's arms collecting my body from the dog-haired back seat. The evening warmth of his torso matched mine, his stubble, one hand beneath my backside and the other along my spine, the pretend of my eyelids lightly shut, the crunch of gravel, 5 paces over cement tiles to the wooden deck, 3 steps up and 2 more to the door, propped open by my grandmother. No lights in the house, whispers about where they'll put me. Am I still asleep? Do they bother with pajamas? Here, leave his shoes by the door. Lit by the dark, the deep smell of leftover ground beef and onions in a cast iron pan, boiled icing, and vanilla cake. He sails me in the ship of his arms through the kitchen, the dining room, down the narrow hall, past the large wooden coat rack and the front door, sealed in old plastic. We climbed the oak stairs for too long to be believed, the sweetness of that time between floors made more so by the dread of the last 4 paces which deliver me to the spare bed. My body cold everywhere my grandfather no longer is, like a wisdom the body knows of what the future does and doesn't hold. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Michael. That was beautiful and funny. Our next reader is Patrick Friesen. He was born in Manitoba and now lives in Victoria on the unceded lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people. He's published more than a dozen books of poetry, a book of essays, stage and radio plays, and 3 albums of text and music. He's co-translated 5 books of Danish poetry with Per Brask, one of which was shortlisted for the Griffin Poetry Prize. His play, A Short History of Crazy Bone, which is just an incredible title, won the Winnipeg Theatre Award for Outstanding New Work in 2018. Most recently, he recorded Poems, a selected reading, a spoken word album which is available as a CD and also in the festival bookstore if you're interested. His most recent book, Reckoning, which he will read from tonight, is a book-length poem in lyric fragments, a meditation on mortality, music, and memory. Please join me in welcoming Patrick Friesen to the stage.
Thank you, Jen. And thank you to all the people that work at this festival for putting it on, for all of you for being here. I also want to thank Brian Kaufman, Karen Green, and Jessica Keys of Anvil Books. And the cover was designed by my daughter, Marika. Speaking of design, I would like to remember Charles Elliott, a Saanich master carver, who was he passed earlier this year, who was one of the great innovators in the Coast Salish book design field. I shouldn't say book design, poles and other things. Reckoning, which comes from Dead Reckoning, which is a South Pacific form of navigation, is a book of sections, some more fragmentary than others, prose, poetry, dialogue. I used whatever came to mind so I could utilize whatever voice was showing up. A thread throughout is navigation. The many kinds of navigation, physical, mental, spiritual navigations, navigating through families, through memory and story and how they interrelate. So I will just read the sections without explaining them. Swimming out of the past, a fishbone caught in my throat. Dogs howled at the moment the sun died. The town eclipsed, almost lit, almost not. And the man said that I must pray for forgiveness. And for what, I asked. I haven't murdered the sun. And he said, it isn't funny. But of course it was. The man holding his Bible against my forehead, as if my skull was porous, mangling some language. And those great secular bodies kept rolling through all the vastness, and birds were silent, just for a moment. And the world hushed, except for the man's uncertain tears as he pushed me out of his car and drove into the sun's profane rebirth. I had no direction, only a way. A hairpin falling to the floor, her hair undone, and nothing the same again. So the story goes. Story the man told over the years. The story he heard of his young mother drowning in her lungs and calling, terrified, the room turning, and someone closing the blinds to keep something out, perhaps the rooster at dawn. This is what was remembered in all the agitation. It was November 1918, and him becoming an orphan. A dog barked all night. That too was remembered, though it had nothing to do with anything. There may be nothing after death. I tend toward that. Or everything. But I doubt it. Someone singing through an open window. This I know. There are those who sing their way through the landscape, and there are birds that sing to their eggs, like women to their wombs, singing spirit out of water. About time, someone said, meaning they had run out of patience. But I was thinking it might mean a much bigger thing, where impatience has no meaning. But I forget what came after that. Out of time is what it's come to now, closer to the end than to the middle. But also something about the journey, what we emerged from, creatures that we were on that arm-dangling simian path. It is about time. That drip of seconds takes no time at all. And who remembers? Us critters vanishing with the last word or two of comfort or conciliation, or perhaps only a silence broken by traffic, or a nurse fiddling with an IV. Yes, it's all about time. Something to unearth, always to unearth it. That's really weird. Yeah, what? I just had déjà vu. Oh yeah, it happens. What was it? I had déjà vu about having had déjà vu. That's interesting. It's probably happened before. You think? The déjà vu I just had a déjà vu about was a déjà vu about a previous déjà vu. Wow, so that's what? 3 déjà vus about déjà vu. It won't happen again. I thought you'd say that. Wait, did I read that already? Actually, my friend Per Brask and I, when doing translations, invented déjà vu, which is where something's happening that's going to happen again. Well, she said, I remember, and she meant, let me tell you a story. And I listened and said, that's not exactly how you told it before. And she said, of course not. You were younger, with different ears. So which one is true, or at least truer? And she said, yes. Them frogs are leaving. Won't know them soon. Disappeared down warm rivers to some cove of lost things. The bear turning away, bones of her cubs lying in the blanched field. Us too, thinned out through heat and rising rivers, and vanishing. It will come to pass. Yes, by our own hands. A trawler on its side in the desert, or cities disappearing beneath waters. An old woman is walking in the heat. She's not walking toward an oasis. They have all dried out. She is looking for the last tree, carrying the mind of the species to the end of the earth. Some pick huckleberries, some pluck stars from the sky. What's the difference? The season, our brief bodies are burning cattails with blackbirds rising like smoke, always indecipherable. The vastness of a sky with its million detonations, unnoticed disappearances, and us moving through it all. What is glimpsed in the corner of the eye, an augenblick, an Icelandic poppy, or another life walking by. And we walk, like Kierkegaard, through the streets of Copenhagen, mulling his morning's work. Thoreau sauntering perpetually toward some holy land. Like Dickinson, walking up and down the stairs between the kitchen and her room, between conversation and a brief visitation of the poem. And we walk like Virginia Woolf, gathering stones on her way to the river, a long walk to the river Ouse. And the ones who walk at night, insomniacs and the anxious, pausing in bus shelters to get out of the rain. A woman I know crosses the Blue Bridge, seeking some elusive phrase or finite word. And when the word arrives, she keeps walking, a spill of joy through her body. She walks further, leaving the bridge behind. There is infinity in those shoes, in the long miles, in the bend, a man looking for the place where night is buried. Another ship sailing, land ho. Well, maybe not. Wind blowing my hat away. All hands on deck. Oh, baby, what a wonder. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Patrick. That was putting me in a trance. Now I have to come back and introduce people. Our next reader, Susan Musgrave, is the author of 19 books of poetry, numerous works of fiction and nonfiction, and several books for children. She's been the recipient of multiple awards, including the Matt Cohen Award, the BC Book Awards, and Taste Canada Awards. In 2023, she was recognized with the George Woodcock Award for Outstanding Literary Achievement in British Columbia. An instructor for UBC's optional residency MFA, she lives in Haida Gwaii, where she is a proprietor of Copper Beach House, which is a beautiful-looking guest house that I looked up online and hope to stay in someday. I encourage you to check out that website. Her most recent book of poetry, which she'll be reading from tonight, is Exculpatory Lilies, beautiful, tightly written lyrical poems that circle around themes of love, grief, addiction, and connection. This book was shortlisted for the 2023 Griffin Poetry Prize. Please join me in welcoming Susan Musgrave.
Thanks, Jan. I know this isn't about one-upsmanship tonight, but Michael mentioned something about being in a tent and things being thrown at him. Well, 50 years ago, in my early 20s, I was in a tent in England in the forest where Winnie the Pooh was written. I was involved in a threesome, I think. But there were other people sitting around the fire who were drinking heavily and started throwing beer bottles and wine bottles at the tent, which sort of took away any amorous inclinations we might have had. And I just remember being petrified, as if there was a grizzly outside. But I love the fact that it was Winnie the Pooh's forest. I think it's where A.A. Milne had lived. His house was on the property. I have no idea why I was there, who I was with, or anything. But since Michael brought it up, I thought I should continue with it. I'm glad that Jan could pronounce Exculpatory Lilies, the title of my book. A lot of people have a hard time with one of the words. And when I did an interview with Tom Power, I said that I said he also could pronounce exculpatory. And I said, many people have trouble pronouncing one of the words in my title, and so it's lilies. Anyway, title comes from a New Yorker cartoon by Michael Crawford. A woman is opening a bouquet of flowers, and she says to her husband, "It's been weeks since you bought me exculpatory lilies." So, Good Friday, the day they delivered that sad bouquet, was the day our cat ran out on the road and failed to look both ways. I'd stashed the candy eggs under the sink in their pink raffia nests, safe amongst the household poisons where the kids had been warned not to go. On Easter Sunday before first light, I stole outside to hide the loot, the family of bunnies in gold foil, the high-quality chocolate you insisted on buying. Nothing's too good for my girls. The lilies, smacking of humility, devotion, had been for me. Your way of saying, sorry, I can stop. I will lose the needle and spoon today. But I was finished, I was through. Said sorry had been your default setting since the day we vowed I do. I think now I was cruel. The cat darted out, hit the car, staggered back as far as our front gate. For a second, I thought she might have been stunned, nothing more, though the dribble of blood at the corners of her mouth was a small grief with a life of its own. I buried her at the bottom of the garden where I had tossed your exculpatory lilies, and where I picture them still. Each new day above ground is a hard miracle, you wrote. I hung on every miraculous breath you took as I stood outside your door at night, dying to hear you breathe. In the end, it wasn't me you turned to, but God. Wasn't love meant to be more pure than faith, more sacred and enduring? These days, I lean heavy into the wind, and the wind's blowing hard. I'd like to dedicate this poem to my friend Josef Wask, who's in the audience, I think, unless he ran away, but he was here. And he has a book coming out called Naked in a Pyramid, for which I wrote we don't like the word blurb, endorsement. And I think it's being published by Anvil Press. And apparently my endorsement was a bit audacious, and so it's not on the cover. And so you'll have to buy it now to read what this audacious, it's on the back cover perhaps, the endorsement is. But the poem is called Rain, and it's prefaced with a quotation from Thich Nhat Hanh. The tears I shed yesterday have become rain. I almost weep for myself for this having to be human. Did you ever hear of loneliness? Did you? I let the days enter me. I let loneliness be the choir that requires I sing alto when I wish to be a soprano. I could reach the high notes, I promise you, if only I could learn to breathe. I don't know how to breathe. If I breathed, I could be rain, I could fall. How fiercely have you loved your days, have you? How few days are left, what few hours. For now I know this, the broken bottles our lives are. I think my favorite poem in the book is a fairly lighthearted one, because it's quintessentially me. And I'm one of those annoying people that is always right, well, most of the time. And something my friends don't like about me, I don't have very many friends actually, maybe one, two, because being right, people don't like you. And I don't mean to be right, sometimes I keep my mouth shut now rather than be right. I don't know why it matters so much, that's the real thing. The poem is called The Truth. The hitchhiker I picked up a mile outside of Masset claimed he'd been enlightened by buttercups. so many that to stare at them too hard would have induced blindness. All day he had meditated by the ditch, and the moment I'd pulled over in my Jeep Cherokee, he knew he'd been blessed. He'd been waiting his whole life for someone like me. It crossed my mind to tell him those were dandelions, not buttercups. But how pleased I am with myself, I refrained. Maybe the one time in my life. I have to bite my lip all the time. Why? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Let them be wrong, you know. Words from my headstone, I guess. Let them be wrong. My friend Lorna Crozier, the one friend I have, I think, and Tom O'Flanagan recently lost their lovely family member, Rothko. And this is a poem. Most of us have some pets that we have that we love as family members. They are, aren't they? And Dark Star is a dog I walked with every day on Adukwei, and on New Year's Day, she was lying in the driveway. She was pretty old, but she always lay in the same spot, and somebody backed over her and broke her, I guess, her whole hindquarters, but she didn't show it, and I've learned that dogs don't, if they show illness, or they'll be prey, so they are very stoical. They just live with the pain, but Meredith brought her inside and would carry her out to, you know, do her business, and but she realized that it's not really a way for a Labrador, so she was a lab, not really a good way for a dog to live. So this is an elegy, and it's for all the people, all of those who've lost animals. You can substitute other names, but this is Dark Star's poem. How many times I walked Dark Star to White Creek and sat with her, happy, watching the gulls headbutt the wind, the ravens dive into the knee-deep foam. I'd feed Dark Star her last treat, and we'd head for home. Tonight, Dark Star is recollecting the life beyond. What is it that separates the living from the gone? She wags her tail, she drinks, she eats. It means she's hanging on, though every mouthful of meat has the taint of the slaughterhouse in it. The rain doesn't help the grief of it, nor will our tears be enough to keep the cold from dancing Dark Star outside to chase the wind. Her going saddens everything, the moon, the stars. She who brought us light in darkness has saddened away the sun. So the only grief comparable to losing a dog or a cat is losing a child. And I say this quite honestly, having spent the last 2 years grieving the loss of my daughter. And before that, I had had cats die, and I thought, I'm grieving more for this cat than I have most humans. But now I don't, you know, so it's all relative, and I wouldn't wish any death on anybody. I'm hoping they hurry up and find a cure for it, quite honestly, before I get much older. It's a poem called Hunger. When I go to the river with my trouble and sit under the big trees, I see my girl again. Her dress is the color of soft butter. Her hunger tastes of whiskey and rain. Behind us is darkness, and darkness lies ahead. The worst kind of pain is to miss someone you've never known, and worse, never will. The emptiest days are loveliest. Only people with desires can be fooled, and I have none. So after Sophie died, which was September the 8th, 2021, of an overdose of fentanyl and benzos, and there are probably some people in this crowd who have loved ones, brothers, sisters, fathers, mothers, daughters, sons, who are in the same position. I meet them all the time, so I know I'm not alone, even though that kind of grief is a very private thing in some ways. But I stopped writing poems for 2 years. On her day of her death, September 8th, I wrote a poem for her called Social Distancing at the crematorium in Armstrong, and I had it printed out today, and I was going to be brave enough to read it, and I lost it. So if you see a poem lying around the ground with that title, it's mine. But obviously the universe was telling me, don't read that poem, because that's never happened to me before. And so I have to trust my instinct. I've been reading a lot of Louise Glick, who died, a wonderful poet who died last week. And I found these lines today. Beauty, the healer, the teacher. Death cannot harm me more than you have harmed me, my beloved life. So I have to read another one for Sophie. It's called Postscript, on September 14th, 2021, which was the day she was cremated. And I sat outside in the parking, not knowing you were allowed to take sick leave or any kind of compassionate leave. So I was writing to my students, editing their poems in the parking lot. And someone said later, I think it was Lorna, why didn't you take leave? I said, I didn't know I could get paid and not teach. But anyway, so this is a poem for Sophie. The day you are cremated, a girl modeling a black hoodie like the one I've chosen for you to wear lights up my Facebook page. I survived because the fire inside me burned brighter than the fire around me. I hear you laugh at the irony as they fire up the retort, a laugh dragged through the ashes of 1,000 cigarettes, tokes of crack. My sweet, dangerous, reckless girl, what could I do but weep the way I did when you were 4, butting out a Popeye candy cigarette you scored from the boy next door for showing him your vagina through the split cedar fence. I told you, next time, baby, hold out for a whole pack. Trying to be brave the way only a mother could. Now I carry you home in a plain cedar urn, the remains of all you once were reduced to this smaller, portable size. Not even you would survive the fire this time, your light in ashes now, formless as the divine. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those devastating poems, Susan. Incredibly beautiful. I'm very excited to introduce our next poet, the one and only Lorna Crozier. She has published more than 25 books, including 18 collections of poetry, and has been lauded by Ursula Le Guin as a visionary and a truth teller. Her memoir, Small Beneath the Sky, won the Hubert Evans Award for Creative Nonfiction, and her poetry collection, Inventing the Hawk, won the Governor General's Award for Poetry. Her work has received many other awards, including the Pat Lowther Award, which she won 3 times, just saying, the Dorothy Livesay Prize, and the George Woodcock Lifetime Achievement Award. Her new collection, which she'll be reading from tonight, After That, writes into the space left after the death of Crozier's long-term partner, the writer Patrick Lane, who she lived with for 40 years. These poems are heartbreaking, but in true Crozier fashion, they also manage moments of levity and even exaltation in the face of loss. Please join me in welcoming Lorna Crozier to the stage.
Thank you. It's an absolute delight to be here. Better check my time. Oh, thank you. It's been 35 fucking years since I dreamt on being on the same stage as Michael V. Smith, my friend, whom I met when he was 17, and I can't even believe how old I was at the time. And I have to say that Susan Musgrave is not lying when she says she is always right. You can be sitting with her and you can say, you know, there are 9 planets in the solar system. And Susan will curl her lip and say, no, there are 12. And you argue with her and she turns out to be right. She always finds a way to be right. It's quite astounding. And in spite of that, I remain her friend. I consider this new book, After That, to be the final in a trilogy. The first book was a memoir, a kind of a memoir that I wrote called Through the Garden, A Love Story with Cats, that I wrote when my partner, Patrick Lane, became very ill, and I didn't know how to survive, so I started writing. And it was about our 40 years together and the 5 cats who had shared our lives. When I finished it, he was still alive. And then after he died, I edited a small collection of poems he left behind, which came out last year with Harbor Press, called The Quiet in Me. And now this book, which I wrote after his death, called After That. I appreciate what everybody said about if you feel like clapping, you may not, but hold it to the end, because I kind of consider this to be one big movement. Let There Be Angels. William Blake heard angels singing. I wonder what you heard at the end. The trauma doctor said, talk to him if you want, he can hear you. This was before he turned off the machine. I talked to you between kisses. I kissed your mouth, your eyes, lowered the sheet and kissed your chest and belly. I took your long feet in my hands and kissed your toes, and the pale soles mapped with where you'd walked for almost 80 years. I took the palms of your hands and laid them on me, the last time they would touch me. I held each hand between mine the way I'd hold a broken bird. I talked. I didn't say anything that would surprise you, but my mouth was busy. Maybe you weren't pleased. You wanted more. In times that mattered, we always tried to say something the other didn't know. Almost a children's story. One day, you met a fox by the railroad tracks. Both of you stopped in the tall grass and looked at one another. Don't make a big deal out of this, said the fox. I'm just a fox. One day, you met a magpie high in the spruce. Both of you stayed still and looked at one another. Don't make a big deal out of this, said the magpie. I'm just a magpie. But if you want to help, tell the monk to put away his rifle. I won't eat the robin's babies. One day, you met a snake between the raspberry bushes. Both of you froze and looked at one another. He'd been sipping the clear liquid around the mouths of the bottles hidden in the wood pile, the ivy, the brambles. When he spoke, he slurred and hissed. It was hard for you to listen, but you're sure he didn't say, I'm just a snake. Does this mean he was someone else? It was a haunting, a visitation? Why is it the bad days come back and not the good? Parcel. In the bag I carry from the crematorium, you weigh more than the heart of a horse. How do I know how much that is? I don't. But I say to myself, you weigh more than the heart of a horse. Winter's garden. Is there peace in the winter garden? Is there consolation? No weeds to pull, nothing to be harvested, washed, and eaten. The fish hang in the pond on strings, gelatinous with cold. The moss sinks deep into itself. You too could go there to that giving up, that bedding down. You are weary of who you are. You are lonely. Like that tree, rachitic and bare, like that box on a pole your husband built for bats, but no bat goes there. In memory of him, in hope he still knows, a blunt-winged, leathery thing flies from your chest to roost inside it, blood pooling in your head. When night falls, will you blunder from the opening and feed? Will you plush and fatten on winter's poor abstractions, its scant repast? How did he die? He ended up at Okanagan Lake, fashioned a paper boat and pushed it from shore, a bracelet of baby teeth inside it. His mother came in spirit and carried him mightily away, small in her arms and blonde as he was as a child. She didn't smell of smoke and gin. We went together. He held a wounded gyrfalcon in his left hand. It screamed as its soul left its body. He could feel the lightness in his own chest. He died in his sleep. There were no excrescences. A dragonfly sat on his forehead, its sharp feet gripping his skin. We went together. It was a dream, and we both awakened, the 5 cats we'd loved for over 40 years, restless in our bed. One of us had to get up and feed them. One of us couldn't be dead. 3 a.m., across the street in the high reach of the trees, was the wind playing a violin? Though mostly deaf, he turned his head toward what he heard as music. Listen, Lorna, listen. The last words he said. I want to read a poem in honor of Susan's Exculpatory Lilies. Exculpatory what? Pansies, chrysanthemums? It is that second word that's so difficult. The problem with getting flowers when someone dies is that the flowers all die. And they do it so obviously. And they rot in the vases. So, it's not a good thing to send flowers to someone who's grieving, let me tell you. In lieu of flowers, when someone knocks on the door, pray he is not bearing another bouquet of flowers, but an animal on a leash. A goat would be best. You can lead him to the vases, the hall, the kitchen, the living room, the bed strewn with dying blooms. Such a beautiful feast. Freesias and chrysanthemums, rosebuds and roses, the labias of orchids. You love the stink of him, the violence of his teeth, the sound of his hooves throughout the house, soft on the carpet, hard on the hardwood floor. When someone you've lived with for that long is close to dying, a lot of your time is spent wondering how you're going to go on. 7 ways to keep on going. Take on another language an alphabet of bone and sinew and grit. Chew the gristle and learn by heart the songbird's oldest songs before you try to speak his name. Draw his feet, long and elegant, the shape of them like slim trout. Take extra time with the toes you took into your mouth. Find the word that means the sky after a swan has flown through, a mute swan with wide white wings. The noun has been lost because too many fluent in this grassland's dialect, when they look up, see only emptiness. Remember everything. No, don't do that. The hawk and owl feathers he found in the fields and kept in a jar on his desk, glue them to the hollow near your shoulder blades where you once had wings. You can wear his leather jacket then, and it won't look big. Observe the way of insects. An ant uses the body of another ant to build a bridge over the gap between the planks on the deck so he can get to where he wants to go. Sleep on both sides of the bed. Confuse the cat. Two ways to keep on going. Soon it will be over. Find the herb that grows on stone and brew it for a tea. It will make your heart turn hard. Watch how water falls without breaking. Watch how snow falls without breaking. Watch how your cut hair falls to the floor and you lift your head. Your friends say, how young you look. Look how light falls upon you and doesn't break. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. Our next reader is Victoria Adukwei Bulley, a poet, writer, and artist. A recipient of the Eric Gregory Award, she has held residencies in the United States and Brazil and in London at the Victoria and Albert Museum. Her work has appeared widely in publications such as the White Review, the London Review of Books, and the Atlantic. Her debut poetry collection, Quiet, won the Folio Prize for Poetry and the John Pollard International Prize, and was shortlisted for the T.C. Eliot Prize. She'll be reading tonight from Quiet, a book that The Guardian has described as having a clear-eyed elegance along with a controlled ferocity. Inventive in form while paying homage to a long line of Black feminist thinkers and writers, Quiet shows why Bulley is an important and necessary new voice in poetry. Please join me in welcoming Victoria Adukwei Bulley to the stage.
Oh, thank you so much. Good evening, and I want to start by saying thank you for having me, because this is my first time in Canada. This is the furthest I've traveled, possibly in my life, from home in London. I'm from East London. But does anyone know London well here? Hands up. Okay, cool. I'm from Leighton, and I'm here with my 1-year-old and my partner, and I'm very jet-lagged It's not edibles, it's jet lag. That stuff's not legal in London, but it is here. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here, and yeah, it's just such a joy. Declaration. If sickness begins in the gut, if I live in the belly of the beast, if here at the heart of empire, if careful in the house of the host, if quiet at the hearth of the host, if here at the home of empire, if I live in the belly of the beast, let me beget sickness in its gut. Revision 1. Consider. From the 1400s, the area later known as the Gold Coast would be, choose one, discovered, invaded, visited, landed upon by Europeans, illegal aliens, migrant workers, tourists, Christians, hailing from the ports of Sweden, Denmark, England, the Netherlands, Portugal, Prussia, during their visit, residency, occupation, sabbatical, stay. They would alter irreversibly the ecology, lives, speech, gods, memory of the Homo sapiens, natives, people, fauna inhabiting the land. It is not clear what their expectations were. One could assume they were successful, even after completing, losing, leaving, tiring of the project and going home. It is arguable that they did not actually leave. 2. Compare. A. Onion, sabolai. Hint, cebola. B. Chale, Charlie. Hint, fam. C. Hint, water bird, duck. Doko doko. D. Lala. Hint, lala, song. 3. Consolidate. In the year of our Lord, 1471, they came. In the year of our Lord, 2017, I look for my language, still finding in it their hairs. 4. Conclude. Oh, chale. I stayed in Portugal for a year and loved it, more than England, fam. Patriot, who? Water off a duck's back. 2 colonizers, 1 with better weather. What's the problem? The people were happy. It was hot. I stayed in Bulhão. I'd go to the market and buy vegetables and come back to the apartment and make rice and stew. I do that when I want to feel at home. I like to think that I can bring home with me. And you know, I can't speak Ga, but our word for onion is sabolai, right? And the Portuguese word for onion, cebola. Cebola. I love it. I love it and I hate it. And this year it happened again this very January. Mum played me a video of Grandma singing a folk tune. And she told me that the word for song in Ga is lala. Lala, as in deck the halls with boughs of holly. Fa-la-la-la-la, can you believe that? And I was so happy to see Grandma so alive, singing all these words of which I understand nothing. See her clapping, all nearly 100 and fully bat-blind years of her. And even Mum didn't know the story. She just translated the outline to me, which I don't remember now. But the whole time, I could only stand there. I was just watching and thinking, damn, this lala feels sad. This one lala sounds like a sorry song. "15. With his hopscotch grid for a wrist, see my blue boy with a smile like a one-string guitar, relative to nobody, dropping out of school, out of line, saying, I love you more than life itself, in a first Valentine's card during the term in which we turn 15. In the attic of an old phone now. Here he is again in the drawer I was emptying during a hymn I was singing before I met him. And here he is, my blue boy. Now watch this older girl stop and throw her day out with the dust and turn blue too. This whole impermanence thing is deceptive. Looks lifelong, actually, to me. Still stuck here, moulding mason jars of words to preserve him with. Wondering if a poem 10 years on is still a pining. Asking how many more I will make, having learned at last how little of us keeps. It's hard to know what to read at this time in the night. It's like kind of about 4 a.m. in my head. There's only so much time. Okay, I'll read some short ones. Whose name means honey, which is a crush poem. I think crushes are just such fun emotions, or sort of fun emotional landscapes. And yeah, I wrote this poem on my phone, and before I put it in this book, I actually did send it to the person. And I thought, why not? Whose name means honey. You are beautiful to me. You are beautiful to me across the table we have arrived at, in from the rain. No makeup on your face, but for the small, frail thread of something on your right cheek that I would like to remove for you, you whose name means honey. Every time you look up, and still it is there, I would like to be the one who says, hold on, come here, let me, 1 minute, stay there. Almost. There we go. All done. Perfect. And when you look up, and now it is gone, swept absent-mindedly off the face of the earth by your dark hair, oh, I am sad to have missed my chance. I'm going to read a poem called "Dreaming is a Form of Knowledge Production," and I wrote this from a workshop that I did that was sort of spread over. I was a participant; I wasn't leading it, but one workshop was on one Saturday, and the next one was on the second, and it was all about dreams. And so this poem contains a series of... Every single thing in this poem is from some kind of dream or something I said during the week, or something that came to mind, or a tweet that I tweeted. It's full of all different things which came together in some kind of way. Dreaming is a form of knowledge production. Nobody's immune to their ego taking the wheel. Dreaming is a form of knowledge production, and they don't want it to be that easy for us. As in, lay your head on a pillow, wake up holding something new. I said what I said, not what you say I said. Pigs are outside the house, but next door this time. It's not something our relationship will be able to survive. He doesn't show it, the cat, but he loves me so. He has the gene, but it hasn't kicked in yet. Another 1,000 years, all thinking and no feeling. Shut up about Freud. And I'll end with a poem titled Air. Friend, I saw you sitting at the window of yourself, high up in the loft, watching it all go on without you. I was ice, and you were almost shadow. I waved like a child on a passing boat. Unsure of whether or not this counts, I want us to remember the unreadable air, how it waits to be recast by the touch of our lungs, our breath alone, a most humble poem, in, out. The couplet we write without thinking. Don't go. We must stay alive to our place in the family of green and breathing things that use even our sighs to make sweetness from light. What grace! Allow what is simple to be simple. Accept it as truth. Quiet as it's kept, we help the trees to breathe too. Thank you.
So great to hear you give life to those poems, Victoria. Thank you. Our final poet this evening is Matthew James Weigel, an Edmonton-born and raised Dene and Métis writer and artist. His chapbook, It Was Treaty, It Was Me, won the 2020 Vallum Chapbook Award and the 2021 B.P. Dinkel Chapbook Award. His debut poetry collection, Whitemud Walking, which he'll be reading from tonight, was a finalist for the 2022 Dane Ogilvie Prize and was shortlisted for the Raymond Soster Award and won the Gerald Lampert Award. Whitemud Walking is a thought-provoking, formally inventive, and moving collection which revises colonial narratives, braving the archive, and weaving together Weigel's and his family's relationship to land and to land title. Whitemud Walking is one of the most important land-back books to be published in the last decade and has been called a deeply felt accomplishment by Billy Ray Belcourt. Please join me in welcoming Matthew James Weigel to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. It's a real honor to be here. I've been working frantically on my PhD, and so it's a good excuse to come out here to Vancouver and get out of the library, get out of the office to a certain extent. So I come from Treaty 6 territory. I am Dene and Métis from Treaty 8 territory. And the thing about being Dene and Métis is that the Canadian government has kept incredibly good records of the dispossession of my family and the genocide that has taken place and continues to take place. And if Canada holds anything sacred, I do believe it is these records, simply due to the difficulty that it takes to access these records. So even though you go to the library and you ask to see these boxes full of the stories of my family, there's always hoops to jump through and boxes to sign your name to and stuff like that. And this time I'm in the library that Canada keeps my kin in. And I've brought all of the other libraries that I've ever been in with me. There's my mom's library, where as a child I saw a pop-up dinosaur. In rows of shelving and drawers I thought must hold so many fossils. And there's my dad's library of tapes in the car. And my favorite songs are the songs that tell a story, and we drive all day. And my dad tells stories. And I thought, every story must be a layer in the earth of stories. And I thought it's the stories in front of you that you remember the best. And so this time I'm in a library, and it's full of glass to let the sun in. But all of the books are in metal boxes and stacks in rows of other metal boxes, all inside a concrete box. And the glass walls let the sun in. And it's warm in there. And I am warm, holding my coat, my sweater, and my bag, and all the other things that are not my name. That I write on a clipboard. And it is not lost on me that I'm here to see my great-great-grandfather's signature, and that I must offer mine to the library first. You see, in this library, they hold the layers of the thing called Canada. They keep it in a vault, and behind it is another vault, and across it is another row of vaults. And I can see the vaults, but no, I cannot see the vaults. Beyond us is the new building. The building they say will be staffed with robots, arms of a safer temperature, reminding us that to touch a document is to take a piece of it with you, and to leave a piece of you behind. And it is this exchange that we must climate control, and a de-reciprocal programming. And when only the dead and programmed can see my kin, no one will see my kin. Thank you. I'm going to read a couple more poems. This one comes from the curious fact that the total surface area of all of the land of England is less than in size than the total surface area of water of the Northwest Territories, which we call Denende, the land of the people. We drowned the land of England in the waters of Denende. You see, it was clearly understood there was no ownership of land. So clearly does the land, in fact, own me. My water from the river and my nitrogen, a buffalo protein. I am a flesh-bound manuscript of what this place might say. Hear in it how family made the treaties. Live them, love the land, this place, this creek, this river. Make a sediment of me, make mud, make silt, and send it on its way. Saskatchewan, Athabasca, Slave, Mackenzie, to the sea. If you could take the dirt of England and rejuvenate the ground. If you could manage, as was always done, as people and the beavers manage, take the soil of England, cast it in the lakes across the north, and ball it up in handfuls, homes and dams, and hold the land of England to account for Canada, for the bishopry, for the company, and record it in the manuscript of the Northwest. And then write these things that we are saying down. Write them on 2 sheets, one for you and one for me to keep. Hold these things we learn and teach them on. Tell the story written in the mud, recorded in the river, and copied days downstream. And then I would hope that you carry safe your copy. And when you reach the sea, find England, compare it with this copy we have made, and stir the ocean with it. Thank you. It's okay, you can clap after poems. It's okay. Okay, one more. Again, Marcy Cho, thank you so much for having me. This has been a wonderful experience, and I stood in line to get donuts today. And normally I wouldn't stand in line to get donuts, but they were excellent. So, but this is not an ode to the day I fell off my bike and skinned my knee in the gravel alley behind my cousin's garage, a day that the land took a piece of me. And I had learned to ride a bike so late that I did not have the same confidence in momentum that I had had in gravity. And when you're a child, you hold yourself in an inward way when you cry, in a way that you can no longer hold yourself, in the way that the land holds you. And in all limbs and all joints way, my blood looked so red, being strained in dots through what was left of skin and dust and gravel stuck to the knee. It is the land that was stuck to me while I was extruded. And on that day, I gave something to the land, and I resented giving it up. But this is not an ode to that day, or to the day that I was bullied and thrown in a lake because I was too small and too fat and too much. A day and many other days that I felt so small and not enough. So, although this is an ode to a day in the valley, when I gave to the creek that gave me, this is not about tobacco or a lesson from a snake that growth sometimes means you leave a part of yourself behind. But for that bright day, in a lush overwhelming of green in a mosquito summer, where you were not bit as long as you kept moving, with porcupines and a path past depressions in the grass where the deer had been sleeping, flowers and driftwood with tiny spiders, pools with even smaller fish, and with water that cut so long into the earth it made a space for all of us. Thank you so much.
Well, that was pretty fucking incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Michael.
You have been listening to Books and Ideas Audio, a presentation of the Vancouver Writers' Fest. To hear more events like this one and view our upcoming events, visit our website at writersfest.bc.ca.